Today's review is the penultimate beer that I got from Sainsbury's in their new range of craft beer. This is Wiper and True and it's Kaleidoscope. It's a pale ale at 4.2%. But what's it going to be like? Keep watching to find out. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we're going back to Sainsbury's and this is Wiper and True, Bristol Brewery. This is Kaleidoscope Pale Ale. Now this beer has been out a while. I think it's one of their core beers. I'd almost go as far as say it's been out for 4 years or so, because I remember seeing this one many times. I'm sure I've seen this one before, even in somewhere like Waitrose, but I haven't drank it before, which I'm surprised I haven't drank it, because I'm sure even things when I was Beer 52, you sometimes get some Wiper and Trues. But this is a 4.2% Kaleidoscope Pale Ale, and it's basically hopped with those hops that used to be the hops that were everywhere when I started drinking craft beer. Everything seemed to have Citra, Mosaic, and Simcoe, and that's exactly what this has got in it. Citra, Simcoe, and Mosaic, a trio of hops that combine to beautiful effects. Now it's 4.2%, so it's got low on ABV, but it is a pale ale. It has got barley, oats, and wheat, so I'm expecting something, fairly hazy. So let's crack it open and see what it's all about. I'm sure this was a cheaper one. Might have been wrong, but I'm a bit wrong with all these prices. It might have been even $3.25, but again, part of the 4 for free. So we'll see what it's like. I was quite surprised with the last one, the West Coast IPA from Mad Squirrel. So maybe this one's going to be good as well. Well, beer in a glass. Yeah, I mean, it's got a very slight haze to it, but it's not overly hazy. We've got 2 fingers of very loose white head. I mean, that's going to disappear pretty quickly. And as you say, in a glass, it's almost similar to the salt one, really. A very light yellow colour. Yeah, well, let's see what the aroma's like. It smells quite bright and inviting. You've got lots of citrus, oranges, lemons, a little hint of grapefruit in there. The sort of stuff that you used to always get with craft beer. But, now we've got all these New Zealand, Australian hops, all these sort of different types of hops. It's all a bit sort of old school almost, even though it's still quite a modern craft beer. But let's drink it. Cheers, everyone. Yeah, that's not great at all. It's got this sort of, it's very fizzy. It's almost like a lager in terms of its mouthfeel. And there's this sort of harshness that hits straight away. And I always think harshness maybe to the carbonation, the way that the body sits, but it's harsh. And the flavours are sort of very sort of, they sort of crackle and pop, not in a pleasant way. It's difficult to describe. Imagine you have a lager, for example, and you put a little bit of lime in it, or a little bit of lemon cordial. Lemon cordial, and it's lime cordial that you usually have. A bit of lime cordial, or something, or a bit of lemon cordial even. That's what it tastes like. It tastes like a lager that's been artificially inseminated by some sort of sweet, lemony, citrusy sort of formula. And it hasn't, but that's what it tastes like. And it's not great, Yes, it's reasonably cheap. It's a supermarket beer. It's that mouthfeel. It's so fizzy. It's just like drinking a lager. But you haven't quite got the maltiness of a lager. You haven't got that clean taste of a lager, because you've got this lemony, sort of limey sort of flavour. Yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed with this. It's, again, when I think of the Mad Squirrel one and then this, night and day. This is disappointing. This is like the sort of supermarket beers you used to get 4 or 5 years ago. It's like the sort of dodgy sort of beers you used to get from Beer 52 that were cheap and nasty, really. There's nothing to it. It's watery, it's fizzy. It's not what you want from a pale ale. There's so many better pale ales out there that are much, that have got so much more flavour, body. They're just smoother, they're better balanced. I mean, yes, we're looking at the last two pale ales I had that were rated pretty highly on the channel. The Sandy Kerr Sessions one from Northern Monk and the Rivington one as well. They were really, really good pale ales. And this, it's almost like an IPL, an India Pale Lager. It's like a lager with slightly pale ale-esque characteristics, but it's almost like very small amounts. This is not like a pale ale. If you go to a pub, right, and it's a normal sort of what I call an old man's pub. You've got lots of stuff on cast, and you see things pale ale, and you think, oh, well, I don't really want a lager. I'll have a pale ale. So you have a pale ale, and you think, and it may be cask. It's probably more likely cask than keg, but sometimes you get keg stuff as well. And you drink it, and it's from one of the old, the old breweries as well, or even stuff like Oakham and people like that. The stuff that you see in supermarkets that isn't in the craft beer section, but it's on the side of the section, and it's still called pale ales and IPAs, but it's a world away than the sort of stuff that I review on the channel. That's what this is like. This is a sort of old school pale ale for me. Citrusy, lemony. There's a slight sort of flowery, perfumey sort of flavour to it as well, but it's not what I want from a pale ale. And it's not a great beer. So let's get some scores. Okay, the scores are in for Kaleidoscope Pale Ale from Wiper and True. I'm sorry, Wiper and True, but this is a bit disappointing. It's almost at a point where it's one of the worst supermarket beers that I've had, certainly recently, but almost apart from some of those dodgy Brewdog ones, pretty much it's very low down in terms of supermarket beers, and the scores are pretty much show that. So we start with aroma, appearance, flavour, value for money. Well, it's a reasonable score, but it's not a great beer. So whether you think it's good value, it's a beer, and it's, if you bought 4 of them and you're mad, you paid £2.50 or less. So, that's make that what you wish. And finally, my overall experience. Tighten the scores up, we just about crack into the 60s. Yeah, we got 61 out of 100. That is the Bon Jovi of beers. That is a poor beer. I mean, it's, it could be worse. We have had beers that are under 60. We don't have many. I don't really review and score beers that are like in their 20s and 30s and 40s. That if they're anywhere under sort of 65 and closer to the 50s and the 60s, then they're beers that you should avoid. So Kaleidoscope, let me know if you've had anything really good from Wiper and True. I'm sure I've had an IPA that was all right, but they are very much like, they're not as modern in terms of their craft beer, the way that they make their beers. There's always a lot of there's a traditionalness about them. Now, if I gave this beer to my dad, he'd probably quite like it, although he doesn't really like stuff that's too fizzy. But for modern craft beer drinkers, and certainly, if you're a regular viewer on the channel, and you like the stuff that I review, hence why you come back, take it from me, you're not going to really get much out of this at all. There's better beers to be had in supermarkets, and you can go out and spend 50p, 50p more and buy stuff that's like just over £4 for a pale ale. Like Polly's, you can buy stuff for that. Very good pale ales. Those the Northern Monk ones, again, go and buy bloody Faith. That's pretty cheap. It's probably cheaper than this, when it comes down to it. That's a much, much better pale ale. So disappointed with this. I've got one more beer from Sainsbury's, the Rhubarb and Custard. We'll see how that goes. So hope you like the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you do. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And until the next one, you know what you do. Drink good craft beer and keep on rocking.